Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk to you about alternative communication. Why? Because we need to be prepared for disasters. I think you'll be interested in this video. Hang on. Today I have a brand new Tidradio TD-F6. It's the same as a UV-S9 or a UV-S9 Plus Baofeng, but I bought it from Tidradio. I found it on Amazon. I know that Tidradio is a good company, and so I bought their version. I also bought a better antenna for it, this BTEC NA771 Nagoya antenna. And you say, well, why would you buy a brand new radio and buy a different antenna? Well, this antenna will make it communicate better, actually. It's a little longer. It's tuned to the wavelength that works on this dual band radio. And by the way, I just recently studied for a couple of weeks and passed my amateur radio license, my ham radio license. I am now KI5UEI. KI5UEI is my amateur radio license, and I had a license for GMRS already, WROZ 454. That license enables you to communicate. That GMRS license enables you to communicate and everyone in your immediate family with the same license for $70 a year. For $70 for the license for 10 years. But you're restricted to certain bandwidths, and I believe it's 462 to 467 or channels 1 through 22 on regular walkie-talkies, FRS walkie-talkies. FRS walkie-talkies are low-power walkie-talkies that you can buy at any big box store, any outdoor store, and they're channels like 1 through 22 as well. However, you have like a half a watt capability, and you can have up to 5 watts capability with a GMRS radio. This radio has 8 watts, and that's part of the reason that I bought it. Part of the reason also that I went ahead and got my license through for an amateur radio, or ham radio people call it. It only costs $15 for a 10-year license, and you do have to take an exam and pass. But let me encourage you, hamstudy.org, the ARRL website can link you up with their official study pages. And I studied for about 2 weeks, maybe 3, but I think it was more like 2 weeks. I went online, I downloaded the app to my cell phone, and I also used my computer over here, and I would log in and just sit here and take the practice exam over and over again. And on the app that you put on your phone, when you take the practice exam, anytime you miss a question, it immediately right then flags it red and shows you the correct answer in green. And I like that better because it immediately was reinforced in my mind the correct answer. And so I took that practice exam over and over and over again and got to where I would pass it. You have to pass 80% out of 35 multiple choice questions that are randomly picked from a larger group of questions. And so you don't know what you're going to encounter when you go take your exam, but you can pass. And whenever I got to where I was passing over and over and over and over again, I scheduled to go to a local ham radio club and actually take the exam. And you can check online and find out which clubs are in your area and where you can go in and take your exam. And it only costs $15 to take that exam. And a word of advice, when I took my technician's exam, which is the first level license, I passed it, and immediately it offered for me on the computer there, we had a little tablet that we took the exam on. It offered for me to take the general, and which is the next license above. There's 3 different licenses. And you say, well, why would you want to have that? Well, the higher your license, the more freedom you have to be able to communicate with the radio like this in the higher frequencies. And the higher frequency bands are where you're able to communicate farther. And so it's important to be able to communicate in alternative times, during times whenever you have disasters. You want to be able to communicate as far as you can. I want to be able to communicate about 75, 80 miles is what I want to be able to communicate from our remote property back to home, or from our home to my brother's remote property about 80 or 90 miles away as well. So I want to be able to communicate with family during a time like this. And you say, well, why would you really want to do that? Well, some of you were like me when you were younger and you were a Boy Scout, and the Boy Scout motto was be prepared. And just because the Boy Scout motto is be prepared, it doesn't necessarily mean that you should. But let me also share this with you. There's a scripture where Jesus gives a parable, and he talks about 10 virgins. And 5 of them kept extra oil as they were waiting on the bridegroom for the wedding, and 5 did not. And the parable says that they went to sleep and their lamps ran low of oil, and then the bridegroom came, and 5 of those who had prepared had extra oil, and they were able to fill up their lamps and go on into the wedding supper of the Lamb, or to the wedding. 5 weren't. They had to go away and prepare, and they were left behind. The moral of that story is you really do need to be prepared. We need to be prepared for disaster. In 2009, we had a freak ice storm in northeast Arkansas. For a couple of weeks, people were out of power. We were out of power for 4 days, and my subdivision has underground power lines. It didn't even take down any power poles or power lines in my subdivision, but my subdivision is supplied by above ground power lines that somewhere else were taken down. For a period of time in the early part of that ice storm, we were unable to communicate with one another by landline or by cell, because some of those cell towers were taken out as well in our area. Now, cell communication was restored rather quickly, but if you live in a remote area, it might not. I owned a small auto parts store and had rural customers, and some of those customers told me they were out of power 2, 3, 4 weeks. We bought generators. We bought generators at our businesses. We bought them and brought them home. We needed alternative power. We also needed alternative communication, and that's what I'm talking about today. But December the 10th of 21, we had a tornado in northeast Arkansas in December of all months. And you'd think that would never happen, but it did. For the little hometown that I grew up in, about 15 miles south of here, south of Jonesboro, where I live now, Truman took out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homes. And there are still plenty of disaster spots in Truman, Arkansas today, and we're toward the middle of March of 22. And so alternative communication is important. For a while, people were not able to communicate down there because lines were down, power lines were down, cell was down, but it got back up rather quickly. But in times like that, you can communicate with alternative communication, things like ham radios, GMRS radios, but specifically ham radios, because you have access to more bands. So my suggestion to you is, please be prepared. Go ahead and do some studying and do some things that will get you able to communicate with people. What are we going to do if we have another major ice storm? Oh, guess what? We had one just a few weeks ago in northeast Arkansas again, and it took down some power lines here and there and disrupted communication. What if we have a situation like what we're seeing right now on the news today, where we have a rogue country invade another one, like Russia invading Ukraine? The third largest country in Europe, Ukraine, and it's been invaded by someplace like Russia. And guess what? Guess how those people are communicating with one another? Through ham radio to satellite. Some people have some Starlink connections, and they're able to communicate by internet, but most of them that are doing any kind of communicating are communicating through ham radio. And we're able to listen to what's happening over there because you can listen across the world with ham radio, because these radios communicate by radio waves that bounce off the atmosphere, are sent from radios, whether they're what we would call a mobile radio in your car, a base station in your home, or a handheld like this, to a repeater tower, which is higher up and out of the way of vegetation, mountains, and buildings, and you're able to communicate up to a repeater tower and then back down to another radio station somewhere else, or into a series of linked repeaters. And so, and you'll be surprised at how many ham radio repeaters there are all around this country. And so in North America, your ability to communicate probably the greatest during times when we have natural disasters, man-made disasters, or any kind of disaster like an earthquake or a ice storm or a tornado, which we saw happen. And believe me, if you think it won't happen, it will. These kinds of disasters do happen, and it doesn't hurt to buy a little better antenna like this Nagoya 771, which is tuned to the frequencies that this radio actually is able to transmit on. It's a dual band, and this is a dual band antenna. It's better than the little rubber ducky antenna that comes with it. And let me show you that I do have. You're seeing the radio the first time, just like me. I do have a radio. They're not real big. And let's see if it does have power. See if I can get it closer to the... You can see there that it has power, and it has full power. So no, it has 2 bars out of 3. So it came pre-charged, has a ear piece that plugs into the side of the radio and allows you to actually communicate where people can't hear you. It has a charger and a charging cradle. Comes with a handheld microphone that can clip on up here, actually, so that you can actually just talk like this if you wish, instead of talking this way into the radio. Looks like it has a belt clip, has the rubber ducky antenna, and these are okay. They are tuned to the radio, but about to drop it. You see the difference in the length there? This one is longer because it is tuned like a quarter wave, and I'm probably speaking in language that doesn't make sense to you, but it's tuned better to work and communicate with this radio, and a little wrist strap, and by the way, a manual. And so I'll be putting all this together and charging it up and communicating with it. But enough said. What I just wanted to share today was something from my heart, that we all need to be able to be prepared to communicate. And you say, well, I don't have a lot of money to be able to spend on these things. This radio cost me, I think it was $30.98, if I remember correctly. And this cost me $20.98. And so you're talking about $50 to be able to communicate. If you don't want to buy a better antenna, you're talking about $30 on Amazon. And if you don't like it, you can send it back. Amazon will take it back, and they'll refund your money. But my suggestion is that you think about these kinds of things. Think about how you're going to communicate with people in your neighborhood, people in the area, if you're in a rural area, or people in your family. And by the way, when we had that tornado, put this over here where you can see it. When we had that tornado, the one thing that we could hear inside our little tornado shelter was a local FM radio station. And we had an emergency radio. This radio tunes to FM bands as well so that you can hear FM radio transmissions. It also tunes to weather radio so that you hear the National Weather Radio Service. And so you can communicate with other folks. You can communicate, you can receive warning information and weather information and emergency update information. So my suggestion is please think about this and be prepared so that when a disaster happens, and it can happen to you, it really can, that you'll be able to communicate with others and be prepared. Hey, leave me a comment below. Let me know if you have a ham license or a GMRS license, and if you communicate through radios like this. What's your favorite radio? What's your favorite antenna? I'm brand new at this, and so I need to learn. Are you a member of a local club, and what's the benefit of that? And just any comments or questions that you have. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Let us know in our comments if we're meeting your needs by watching our channel. Thanks a million. God bless you. Have a great day.